This story takes place at a hill station in Pakistan called Hunza. During a freezing cold trip to the beautiful valley of Hunza, 5 friends set out on a journey to witness its unparalleled beauty. However, this time the mountains not only displayed their beauty, but also unveiled the creatures hidden in the darkness. The same paths they once walked on with smiles now led them to the dwellings of Jinns. This is the story of 5 friends who used to live in a hostel in Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan. All of them were students at the same place and shared a passion for adventure. Once a month, they would head out on trips to these tall and captivating mountains. One of them had a car, and they all relied on that car for their travels. One of the friends, Fahad, tells that this story took place in 2018, during the university's closure due to the COVID lockdown. The friends made a plan to visit the valley of Hunza and admire its beauty. All the friends agreed to the plan, made all the necessary preparations, divided the expenses, and set out on their journey. They started their journey in the morning, but by the time they reached the outskirts of the Hunza Valley, it was already night. Those familiar with Hunza would know that traveling on its roads at night is filled with adventure. The friends were enjoying their journey, but they had no idea what was about to happen. As they continued driving, something strange happened. The car, which had been running smoothly, started losing power. They had already driven uphill on steep paths, but the road ahead was even steeper. The friend driving the car tried his best to keep it moving, but the car wasn't accelerating. He kept driving, hoping to reach a populated area, but soon the car overheated and came to a stop. He tried his best to start it again, but it wouldn't start. The friend who owned the car got out, opened the bonnet, and noticed smoke coming from the engine. He said, "It seems like a serious problem with the car. It won't start without going to a workshop." The others asked, "What will we do now?" The owner replied, "We can't do anything until a mechanic arrives and fixes it." Disheartened, the group sat on the side of the road, as there were no nearby houses and no cars passing by at this time of night. The darkness was so thick that even the person standing next to you was barely visible. After sitting there for a while, they heard a noise, as if someone was descending from the mountain toward them. In the darkness, they couldn't see anything. They turned on their mobile torches to look around, but nothing was visible. One of Fahad's friends said, "Who's there?" Suddenly they began to hear a strange, deep voice, like that of a very old man, but they couldn't understand what it was saying. They shone their phone lights in the direction of the voice, but they were also afraid, because the place felt eerie, as if it was inhabited by jinns. Then they noticed a figure standing behind a tree, wearing black clothing. One friend asked, "Who are you?" The figure spoke again in the same deep voice. The friends still couldn't make out the person's face, but it felt like a human standing there in the darkness. When they approached, they realized it was indeed a person who had come to help them. The man gestured to them that he was a local. The friends explained that their car had broken down, and they were stranded in this deserted place. The person they had feared turned out to be there to help. He told them that it was very late and not safe to stay on the road. He offered them to come to his house and rest for the night, and in the morning, they could take the car to a workshop. The friends discussed it and decided that it would be better to go with it, as staying on the road at this hour wasn't safe. So, they agreed to follow the man. They walked for quite some time, following him, growing tired as they walked. Eventually, they reached the top of the mountain, where they saw a house made of stone and wood. The house had 2 rooms, one at the front by the main gate, and one at the back. The friends followed the man inside, and he led them to the front room. He told them to put their belongings there and rest. There was no light in the room, and it didn't even have a window. It felt as if no light had ever entered this house. As the man left, he warned them not to leave the room unnecessarily, and especially not to go to the room at the back of the house. With that, he left. The friends, tired from the journey, lay down to rest and began talking among themselves about how strange and eerie the house felt, almost as if it had once been a warehouse, but was now converted into a room. While they were talking, one of them suggested they should sleep because they had to fix the car in the morning, and no one knew how long that would take. Eventually, they all fell asleep. A few hours later, Fahad woke up because he needed to use the bathroom. He got up and went outside with his phone torch, as there was no light in the house. After using the bathroom, as he was returning to the room, his gaze fell on the door of the back room, which seemed slightly open. He felt as if someone was watching him from inside. At first, he was frightened, but then he thought maybe there was another guest staying there. So he ignored it and went back to the room and lay down. His bed was near the door of the room. After closing his eyes a few minutes later, he heard the sound of the door creaking open. When he opened his eyes, he saw 2 glowing red eyes staring at them from outside the door. Terrified, Fahad screamed, waking up all his friends. They rushed to him, asking what had happened. Trembling, Fahad told them that when he opened his eyes, he saw something watching them from the door. All his friends were now scared. One suggested they should go outside and check. They grabbed their phones, turned on the torches, and stepped outside, but found nothing. Fahad then shared that he had felt like someone was watching him from the back room earlier, but he thought it was just another guest. The friends were now contemplating whether to investigate the back room. They also remembered that the man had warned them not to go there. After some thought, they decided to check the room to see if anyone was staying there. When they approached the door, they knocked and asked if anyone was inside. There was no response. One of them gently pushed the door and it swung open. With their phone lights, they looked inside but found the room completely empty. Fahad was shocked, wondering who had been watching him if the room was empty. His friends consoled him, saying it must have been his imagination because he was tired from the journey. They returned to their room and sat down, still uneasy. After a short while, they suddenly heard loud screams coming from the back room. The screams were filled with anger, as if someone was furiously shouting. Terrified, the friends didn't know what to think. The room had been empty, so where were these screams coming from? They didn't have the courage to go back and check. They just sat there, frozen in fear, reciting Quranic verses. Then they heard heavy footsteps outside their room, as if someone was walking towards them. The footsteps stopped right outside their door. Inside, the friends were trembling with fear, reciting verses louder. The thing outside began banging on the door violently, as if trying to break it down. The banging was accompanied by a horrible voice, like a mix of human and animal sounds. The friends were petrified, continuing to recite verses and praying for protection. After hearing the verses, the thing stopped banging and began walking away, its footsteps echoing back to the other room. Relieved, the friends felt a little safer, knowing that whatever was outside had gone. However, after this terrifying experience, none of them could sleep. The entire night, they heard strange noises coming from the back room. When morning finally came, the man who had brought them there knocked on their door, bringing breakfast with a child. The friends, disoriented from the night, didn't even realize it was morning, as there were no windows in the room. When they asked who was there, the man introduced himself again and reminded them he was the one who had brought them there last night. When they opened the door, he saw the fear on their faces and immediately understood that something had happened during the night. He asked them what had transpired, and the friends recounted the entire night's events to him. The man explained that the house was built in an isolated area, and the surroundings were inhabited by Jinns. These Jinns often visited the house, but they had performed rituals with a local tantric, spiritual leader, to contain the Jinns to the back room. That's why he had warned them not to go there. The Jinns wouldn't come out unless disturbed. When they had opened the door and shone lights into the room, the Jinns became agitated and angry. After hearing this, the friends quickly had their breakfast, went to the workshop with the man to fix their car, and left Hunza that same day, returning to Islamabad. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to this video. Show your love and support. See you next time with another real story. Until then, take care.